Thomas Hobbes was born on April 5, 1588 in Westport, England. Hobbes's early life is almost completely blank. We do know that Hobbes's father abandoned the family when he was very young. Hobbes went into the care of his wealthy uncle and was later educated at Magdalen Hall. Hobbes lived during the English Civil War, when King Charles I and the Cavaliers faced off against Cromwell and the Roundheads. This war greatly influenced his views on society, instilling in him a fear of societal chaos. Although an absolutist, he advocated for separation of church and state, and didn't believe in the divine right of rule. He often criticized religion in general, so it's no surprise that he was a purveyor of secular government. Hobbes is most well known for his conception of the idea of the social contract. He believed that humans, left to their own accord, would create an environment of death and constant mortal fear. This was known as the state of nature. He believed that any human was capable of killing any other human, no matter how strong, citing that everyone needs to sleep at some point. However, he also postulated that an essential part of the human condition was a drive to avoid violent death. Because of this drive, the emergence of what he calls a commonwealth, through the use of a social contract, was inevitable. Hobbes's concept of humans in their state of nature arose in his most famous work, Leviathan. Leviathan was published in 1651 and talked about the structure of society and legitimate government. It is regarded as one of the most influential commentaries on the idea of the social contract. Hobbes suggests that the creation of a social contract arises from the terror of living in the state of nature. Hobbes stated that, quote, "In state of nature, first we will violently compete, to secure the basic necessities of life and perhaps to make other material gains. Second, we will challenge others and fight out of fear, diffidence, so as to ensure our personal safety. Third, we will seek reputation, glory, both for its own sake and for its protective effects. For example, so that others will be afraid to challenge us." End quote. He also refused to claim that there are inherently good people in the state of nature because, quote, "the wickedness of bad men also compels good men to have recourse, for their own protection, to the virtues of war, which are violence and fraud." End quote. As a result, Hobbes paints a truly terrifying picture of the state of nature, also known as a state without authoritative government. Because of this terror, Hobbes theorizes that humans would be willing to give up some of their freedom, the freedom that they would have in their state of nature, in exchange for protections and order. Hence, the creation of an authoritative government and the social contract. The social contract essentially is a contract between the people and the government, citing that the people are the ones who give power to the government. Quote, "Being reasonable and recognizing the rationality of this basic precept of reason, men can be expected to construct a social contract that will afford them a life other than that available to them in the state of nature. This contract is constituted by two distinguishable contracts. First, they must agree to establish society by collectively and reciprocally renouncing the rights they had against one another in the state of nature. Second, they must imbue some one person or assembly of persons with the authority and power to enforce the initial contract. In other words, to ensure their escape from the state of nature, they must both agree to live together under common laws and create an enforcement mechanism for the social contract and the laws that constitute it." End quote. Basically, human beings are naturally inclined to sell some of their freedom for structured protection to avoid, ironically, their natural state. This abstract social contract is often depicted as the artificial human, a body made up of people representing the organized contract. In Leviathan, Thomas Hobbes also created something known as a sovereign, an artificial entity that enforces the social contract. In the abstract body analogy, the sovereign would be the soul of the body. It is what keeps it together. The sovereign is created by the people to give one entity the power to prevent others from seizing power because, quote, "the natural human hunger for power always threatens the safety of the contract." End quote. The sovereign has power because the people willingly endow the entity with certain powers to punish those who threaten the integrity of the contract. Thus, the sovereign works through fear. It precludes rule-breaking through fear of punishment. To sum up the major theme from Leviathan, Hobbes states, quote, "The only way to erect such a common power as may be able to defend them from the injuries of one another is to confer all their power and strength upon one man, or upon an assembly of men that may reduce all their wills, by plurality of voices, unto one will. This is more than consent or concord, it is the real unity of them all, in one and the same person, made by covenant of every man with every man, in such a manner as if every man should say to every man, I authorize and give up my right of governing myself to this man on this condition, that thou give up thy right to him. This done, the multitude so united in one person is called a commonwealth. This is the generation of the great Leviathan." On December 4th, 1679, Thomas Hobbes died from a stroke. He is said to have uttered the last words, quote, "a great leap in the dark," end quote, in his final moments of life.